We will just crack on straight on to Flavia's presentation. As Hannah mentioned, we've been monitoring all the pilots, and we've been speaking to all the pilot managers and gathering a lot of information about the entire process from the initial design and concept all the way through to delivery. So Flavia is going to tell us how that research went and some of the main outcomes, and then keep asking your questions on the Mentimeter, and we will have a panel discussion straight after Flavia finishes her talk. So I would like to invite Flavia up, and over to you. Yeah.
I will give a short introduction about our work, an overview of the SARCC pilots, and the theoretical and methodological approach that we used, if and how the pilots in SARCC were successful, and some highlights per pilot. I cannot go into detail because we have a lot of data, and some main conclusions that we draw across comparing all the pilot projects. The Hazet University was part of the JET joint evaluation team together with Vives and EXO, and we contributed into the development of Output 1, the new framework and monitoring tool that Gary also showed before. And how we did that, we evaluated the impact and the outcomes of the 7 pilot projects on mainstreaming nature-based solutions in coastal cities. And our lessons learned and input provided input actually for the entire monitoring and framework and monitoring tool, because we gathered information from the design phase of the pilot through monitoring and monitoring, public engagement, and implementation phase. You already know the pilots by now because they were explained yesterday quite well. I only want to highlight here that the pilots are also, they also have a difference in the way that they are managed and by whom they are managed. For instance, Middelkerk and Ostende pilot, there is a direct and a continuous collaboration between the municipality and the regional coastal authority. The New Lint pilot was mainly managed by the regional coastal authority, while the rest of the pilots were managed by municipalities. So that's also a difference that is important in the governance, from the governance point of view, and to analyze the governance context of pilot projects. We use the pilot paradox. It's a methodological, it's a approach, it's a theory that we used to gather our data. We translated this theory into questions and we asked pilot managers these questions. And the pilot paradox, it's formed by 5 conditions that we used to analyze the pilot process and also the mainstreaming process, and we consider that external process of the pilot. And this paradox, it is a paradox because it says that the same conditions that make a pilot a success can also hinder or be an obstacle for the external success. And in SARCC, we considered external success the mainstreaming of nature-based solutions into the current management approach of local or regional authorities. And I will go briefly through these 5 dimensions, these 5 conditions, and how we analyze them regarding the internal process and also the external process or mainstreaming process. So the first one is the position of the pilot, and that has to do with the position of the pilot. How far is the pilot from the current coastal management approach, and that is translated directly into the flexibility and the freedom that pilots have to to explore, to learn, to test ideas. While if we look at the mainstreaming process, it has to do with developing actually a strategy to connect these pilots and decrease this distance from the pilot to the regime by developing a strategy to decrease this distance. Resources distribution, it has to do with in the internal pilot process to look for additional resources besides the resources that are available from the project to enhance and have more resources to learn and experiment and innovate. And regarding the external process, it has to do with making sure that once there are results from the pilots, if these results are going to be can fit the resource allocation of current policies. Participants have to do with the involvement of diversity of actors from different disciplines and different sectors, and that during the pilot process, these actors are open-minded, that they are critical with what they hear, that they are willing to experiment and willing to take risks. And among these actors, that they're also agents of change that Patrick also mentioned yesterday, and they are also called scientifically, scientifically they're also called boundary spanners. And make sure that once the pilot is finished, if we want to mainstream these results from pilots, that there is a diversity of actors that have been involved that are also representatives of the implementation arena. And with that we mean the key actors that have competencies in coastal management locally and regionally. We also looked at the process design that during the pilot process to make sure that is a process that is tailor-made to the local conditions, the local interests, the local problems. And regarding the mainstreaming of the results, to make sure that these results are ready and for being mainstreamed, and this is clear what to do and how to embed these results. And the last one, the project design, it has to do with making sure that there is enough time, space, knowledge, resources available to get high results and high insights, quality insights on nature-based solutions. And in order to facilitate the mainstreaming of these results, is that there needs to be a clear understanding of the system, not only locally but also regionally, in order to make use of these results, and that the results from the pilots are actually representative for and relevant for the system. During the SARCC pilots, then using this theoretical approach, we developed questionnaires and interviews, and we sent these questionnaires to all the pilot managers per phase. I have been pursuing them every couple of months to get these questionnaires. The same questionnaire we sent every pilot phase, so we could compare the results. And I also conducted interviews with the pilot managers, either during the implementation phase or right after the implementation phase, because there was more information and more progress in the pilots. And I also conducted 24 interviews with external actors from local and regional authorities, with policymakers, with civil servants, coastal engineers, scientists and nature organizations as well in the Netherlands, Belgium, and UK. And that was very interesting to get the input from external actors on the role of pilot projects and in mainstreaming nature-based solutions for coastal adaptation, and how they see these pilots and what are relevant conditions to mainstream. We also did document analysis. We visited the pilots, and it was also, of course, relevant to exchange information during the meetings. I will go a bit faster. I have 5 minutes left. Okay. We also asked the pilot managers if pilots were successful, and it seemed that they were quite successful during SARCC because they all achieved their goal, but they were also successful externally, so in the mainstreaming of the lessons learned and nature-based solutions. Mainstreaming means different things to different people. I picked some of the quotes from the interviews and also the questionnaires that success is when people accept nature-based solutions, communities, policymakers, or when these pilots can be replicated. Some highlights per pilot. We analyzed all these conditions. Blankenberge was mainly a pilot that tested a very innovative solution. So there is still a distance from the pilot aim to the current coastal management regime because it's quite innovative, so they still have to learn more about this solution. Ostende pilot was a very nice example, very high scores. There is also like a difference in scores for the position of the pilot, and that has to do with the challenge that they face of protection, the protection of the area. Middelkerke was also a very nice example that it's already mainstreaming nature-based solutions, replicating the pilot somewhere else. So it's a very good example for Belgium, but also other countries where they were also agents of change, that the MDK and also municipalities were very much involved, and citizens also acted as agents of change through social media. The New Lean pilot, I can say about the New Lean pilot that it's also they faced the challenge of less flexible regulations for regarding new ideas. They had this new idea that they wanted to implement, but actually they had to change the aim of the pilot because the current coastal management policies was not didn't make it very easy. So they had to change the aim of the pilot to a research and development pilot, and it was to learn more about these innovative ideas before mainstreaming them. Southend pilots, they had a bit of limited time actually to implement the measures and monitor. And Vlissingen pilot also scored quite high in most of the conditions. They have the challenge in to ensure finances for long-term monitoring. And Gravelin pilot scored pretty low in most of the conditions. It was just a pilot. They wanted to learn, but actually the pilot manager said that what they learned is still not enough to have enough insights to replicate this pilot somewhere else. And also that in France, the current coastal management policies do not support and don't have enough knowledge on mainstreaming nature-based solutions. Some main conclusions and messages to take home is that, in SARCC, all the pilots were internally successful because they all reached their goal. They implemented nature-based solutions. Regarding mainstreaming, we cannot say so much because there was not enough time to within SARCC to monitor these pilots and to gather more empirical evidence. But from the empirical evidence we have, we can say that Ostende, Middelkerke, New Lien, and Vlissingen are on the good way, on the way of mainstreaming nature-based solutions. And two factors that supported this mainstreaming and facilitated this mainstreaming to start happening during SARCC were a clear strategy and a clear vision in how to mainstream nature-based solutions, and also a combination of a strong collaboration between the local and the regional coastal management authorities. And success, it's also dynamic, so it depends on not only on one condition, but on a combination of conditions. And also in the regarding the context where the pilot is developed. Every pilot has its own conditions, and a pilot can be a really good opportunity and a tool to learn and gather more empirical evidence. So we can say that it is a seed that it's planted to that it can grow over time, and once it starts growing, it can also turn into a battlefield, the battleground, because there can be more disagreements between authorities and between actors that from different administrative levels and different sectors and with different needs and interests that work together and need to take decisions together. So here is where it is relevant to have these agents of change or boundary spanners that have this capacity in really picking up these lessons learned and be confident and spread them around and use their network to make formal and real changes in the ground. And finally, a strong collaboration between urban and flood risk authorities is key, and also getting on board the local communities and nature organizations to get them early in the process on board, as well as collaborating with cross-border with our neighbors. So thank you for your attention.